Welcome. I'm Christopher Peake, and I'm the husband of Elaine, whose idea this book was. Her father obviously never told her anything about the war. The more I read about him, the more of a hero he has become. These men did bombs, worked with bombs, and they had a 10-week life expectancy. 10 weeks. Well, he went through the war. 6 months after the war, cleaning up in Berlin, and only lost, I say only, he lost just one man. And how did God reward him? Gave him 5 daughters.
I was number 4 out of 5.
But this book, these books could not have been done without the co-writer, Don Kieth. Don has written 40-some books.
I've written about 75, but I've published 46.
Okay, all right, all right. And his books are at the end of the table.
In addition.
And he co-authored a book that became the movie Hunter Killer, which is a wonderful movie to see. My son-in-law knows the dialogue by heart.
It's a very exciting movie.
And so anyway, we could not have put this together without Lane Collins and Paige Hurley, who are here and there, and they do everything here at the library.
They said, do you have any other photographs? And they just put it together and put up the pictures. So that's why you've got some extra photographs.
There will be again, a documentary put together by Tim Gray and his World War II Foundation. He's done
about the same amount of books that Don has done, about 45.
Of documentaries, all of which are on or have been on PBS. And this will be narrated by Paul Giamatti.
And he has done only World War II. So these are always World War II based documentary films. And he's the one who got Paul Giamatti to do the narration of this particular.
And Zack Steiner, an actor from Euphoria, will narrate as one of the key members of the squad. We know a little bit about Elaine, but a moment more on Don. He is a legendary Nashville broadcaster, the only person ever named to Billboard's Radio Personality of the Year in 2 different formats. Which were they?
Top 40 and country in Nashville.
All right. The only one.
So he's homegrown.
And his books, again, the end of the table, he collaborates directly with actual nuclear submarine commanders to bring ultimate authenticity to his books. Now, this is the unvarnished truth of bomb work. It follows an epic World War II odyssey of Captain Edward Hume, her father, his elite squad of bomb disposal techs as they navigate the deadliest battlegrounds of Europe. They landed on Utah Beach post D-Day because they couldn't go immediately because they had to have bombs dropped, have the men move forward ahead of the bombs, and then they could work on the bombs without all of the fighting going on everywhere around them, but they were sometimes within a mile of the front lines. They had a life expectancy of 10 weeks. And obviously a number of them didn't make it. They went through their training at Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Aberdeen, Maryland. And after they had done their training there, they went to England to work with the RAF, because the RAF engineers had been working on bombs for years, since the Blitz, since 1939. So to hear one of the Englishmen say only officers ever worked with bombs, only officers. And an officer would be in the pit and speaking aloud of what he's doing so that his sergeant on the street could take notes. And the story goes, all right, now I'm working with this wire. There's a red one and a green one. I'm going to push the green one to the right. Boom, the notation. Next time, push it to the left. So that's just the way it was done. There were no books. There was no format to follow.
Most people don't realize 10% of the bombs dropped in World War II never exploded. 10%, and we're talking millions of bombs that were dropped. And the British, they had to do what they had to do there just to save life and limb. But as we were planning to march across Europe, we had to make sure those things were out of the way before we started marching behind Patton, the Third Army or whatever. So they had to go into France right after D-Day. They also handled booby traps. They had to sweep for that kind of thing. Ammo dumps. They'd just take old ammo and throw it in a big pile, and that was a threat to blow up and hurt people and kill people.
And that's how the one and only man who was killed at an overflowing
In that
munitions
squad.
pile. And that particular person is on the EOD wall down at Eglin Air Force Base. Don and I and Chris went in December and got to see his name, the actual person, William C. Tate, every year on his death day, which is July 9th, 1944. He was only 24 years old. And this guy is a very integral part of the Kaboom Boys, book 1. And in the book, his real name is William Tate. In the book, he is Ace Taft.
Ace.
We
Okay,
changed
you know
names.
Ace.
Ace Taft. And this guy was from Scotland and came over as he was only 2, and he was in a horrific July 1940 explosion at a Camden factory. It was the Whiz floor wax factory, and that blew up. And so what did he think? Oh, I guess I should, I survived that, I can go into bomb disposal. Most people now would say, there is no way I'm going to do that kind of work. I'm going to stay away from it. But in those days, nobody knew about PTSD. Nobody knew about these traumas. And so he becomes a bomb disposal guy. And he is Edward's number 2, my father's. It's the only guy that he lost. And I know these stories only because the youngest member of the squad had come to my father's funeral at Arlington National Cemetery. And at that funeral, he starts telling me all the stories. I didn't know any of these stories, because do you think my father told me? No. And then you mentioned Patton. My father did something that I would never have expected to hear from anybody, but one of the friends of my brother-in-law's was in the U.S. Army. So what does my dad do? He doesn't tell us any of the stories. He tells this guy, because he was an Army guy. So this Army guy, Tex McDougal, was told the story directly, and then he told me the story, and then now it's in book, is it book 3 or book 2? Two.
We thought it was in 3. We
Yeah, I know.
lose track.
We have so many. Yeah, we were like, which book did we put that in? In book 2, there's a moment where Edward is working on, my dad, on a very large bomb. And all of a sudden, they feel the rumbling of the ground. And we thought we would have some fun with it. So Edward says to his Hank Anderson, who is really Charlie Pritchard in real life, but he says to Hank Anderson, "Are there earthquakes in France?" And of course, what it was the rumbling of Patton's Third Army coming right at my dad. Now, this part is true. That about the earthquakes is not true, but this part is true. And this is what Tex told me, that my dad ran out there and put his hands up, telling them to stop, because there's a bomb here that is going to blow up everything if you don't stop. And apparently Patton came out and was pissed off, not happy about any of this. And my father had to go toe-to-toe with him, and he got him to do it. That's true. But my dad, there's a theme to this, because Captain Edward Hume apparently went toe-to-toe with a lot of people. So he did get Patton to turn off the engines and just idle and wait for him to deactivate this bomb. He also went up, and had a confrontation with the guy when they came over on, I don't know if any of you guys have seen the movie Pressure, but the whole idea of, coming across the English Channel and the weather and all of that. Well, my dad comes over later, not on D-Day, but a little bit later. And when he comes over, he knew that all these young guys were drowning, that they were dying, because they were getting off the landing craft, and they had their gear and everything, and they're just sinking into the water. My father refused to do it. He refused to sign the manifest. And they had this moment where they're like nose to nose, and he says, "I'm not signing it until you move closer." And that's in book 1, and they got closer to shore, and finally they were able to get off. He did this several times. This was a theme. And then the one time he doesn't go up against authority and says, "Okay, I'm going to do what they tell me to do." They had to clear a chateau instead of cleaning out that overflowing munitions pile. And that's when Ace Taff, which is actually William Tate, got killed. Now, in the novels, we make this a very tense situation with the squad, where they're blaming my father. Did that really happen? I don't have that information as per se, but as we were looking at the drama, looking at the story, you can't just say, "Okay, this happened and we moved on." You need the drama, and so we created these into novels so that we would have that. And there was a big tension throughout the books. Was it Edward's fault that William Tate or Ace Taff died? So, going up against authority, and then he doesn't, and then what happens? The guy gets killed. So
We've had a lot of people ask us how much is fiction, how much
Right.
is real, and we say, yeah, about that much.
we'd say pretty much that book 1 is 95% true. Then book 2 is about 87% true. And then book 3, we go, and then book 4 is way out there.
Which we're working on right
The
now.
one we're working on out there right now is way out there.
But I did think, like, some
we
of the
love
things
it.
we could fictionalize.
We love that book.
We have Patton come back 3 hours later after they've defused that bomb, and he says, "You did the right thing, young man, but you just postponed the end of the war by 3 hours."
So we've had a.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, we have to
Sorry.
say, if you're, I was in France recently to shoot the documentary, and it was so funny because the gentleman that you've seen me walking out on the bay, his father was some sort of congressman or something. I don't know what it is. Yeah, that guy's father was there on this trip. He brought his entire family on this trip. They were like, oh, we're going to go to France. So the father apparently had read book 1, and then I had given him the first night I was there, book 2. And then Thomas Vail, he's with the EOD Pentagon, and he's the top analyst. And he goes, you got to talk to my father. He loves your books. He's already halfway finished of The Blacksmith of Dachau. And I said, well, I just gave it to him 2 days ago. So we sit down and talk. He starts asking me all these questions. And he loves the stories, everything. And then I go, well, do you want me to tell you the truth? And he's like, yeah. So I keep, every question he asked me about was the stuff that we had made up. And I was like, but you keep asking me this stuff. See, sometimes the mundane stuff isn't as exciting as the stuff that we were able to create, but it glues it all together.
And it's all based on reality,
all
fact,
the historical
what they went
stuff.
through.
Yeah.
We didn't just create a whole squad of
Make-believe.
make-believe,
Yeah.
exactly.
But anyway, so you get to have fun with it, because as a novel, you have to connect dots. You can't just, like the source material that we work with, it's pretty dull.
Well, Elaine and
I would
Don
fall
are being,
asleep
Elaine and Don are being very modest. The amount of research that has gone into this book, Elaine has spent hours trying to find, going back in the records to capture the weather of the day that her father went out into Mont Saint-Michel Bay for the bombs. That's, listen, to work, and if Eisenhower, I say this all the time, if Eisenhower had Elaine on his staff, D-Day would have been June of 1943 and not 1944.
I'm just pushy.
This is it. And she also has a form of ADHD, which makes life very interesting.
But you can't do this if you don't. Although Don doesn't, I can tell that. But the stories are what's so important, and we are constantly trying to keep the story in the forefront. In fact, I don't know if you want to show the video. Yeah, this is the video. This is the teaser for the documentary film that might give you a little more information. So this is what you're going to see on PBS, a little bit, just a touch.
The Abbey at Mont Saint-Michel during Second World War was taken over by the German army. Yes, what were they doing? They were using it as a vacation spot. Well, the Americans liberate? Yes, they do. What they do with it? Vacation spot. But guess what? There were bombs dropped just out there.
My understanding, it was fairly common for planes that had to return. They would find a place to jettison their unused ordnance.
My dad was the oldest member of the squad. Okay, we got these 12 bombs out there. They had no idea exactly what they were facing.
Can't have your bomb disposal technicians going down range, and now they're working on these 500-pounder bombs, and all of a sudden here comes the water come rolling in.
Oh, it's amazing thinking about what happened here with your father and his crew just out here in front of us.
Those 6 planes dropped
12 bombs. The tide slowly goes out, and there they are.
The early lessons were written in blood, the how to and how not to.
Our motto, both on the military side and the law enforcement, fire department side for bomb technicians is, our motto is initial success or total failure.
Eurostar train service in and out of Paris was canceled for the rest of the day after an unexploded World War II era bomb was found near the tracks.
A team of excavators in Romania made quite the discovery Saturday. These unexploded bombs.
Nothing breaks your heart more than a bomb that was dropped against an enemy in 1943 that kills a farmer in 2026.
Over 175 World War II bombs were found under a children's playground.
A British World War II bomb exploded yesterday underwater in northwestern Poland. More than 750 people were evacuated from a nearby town for this operation.
That takes a unique breed, and I like the people to know that we're out there.
Some of the primary challenges now are the leaps in technology that we have to contend with across the world. The exquisite weapon systems. Once again, it's still the same level of ingenuity that exists out there that did in 1940s, and the same interesting, very brave kind of people who are willing to do it.
You got a handful of men and women out there who are doing everything they can to render safe those dangerous, hazardous devices. And I want people to know that we appreciate their support, but they know we have their backs. We're out there to make sure that we can deter that and stop that if we can.
The gentlemen that we went with, they're all experts and they're really wonderful people. And these are the guys that came out of the world that my father and the other pioneers created. If it weren't for the bomb disposal teams in England during the Blitz, the people that came out of Aberdeen Proving Ground where I was born would never have happened. So my dad's group, they had no books. They had, like Chris had said earlier, they had nothing. It was all word of mouth. They were writing notes, taking information, because it was so new. There had been bomb disposal teams in the early 1900s in New York City because there had been, it was called Black November. They had had a bunch of bombings. So that was the only other thing that they had. And so fast forward to the 1940s, and these guys are just learning how to do it all. So the documentary is going to talk about what my dad and his, all these different guys who volunteered. You still have to volunteer for this. You cannot just, join it. You have got to say, I can deal with the fact that I might die. And so, long story short, with all of this, these guys have become like my family. They love this story. The EOD guys appreciate it. They love the Kaboom Boys. And if I found out that they didn't like it, I would be toast. We would be toast.
Yes, because they'll tell everybody.
They will tell everybody, and they are so happy because they don't really like the Hurt Locker. They hated the Hurt Locker. They felt that the guy was too reckless. So, and I can tell from getting to know all these guys, you see some of them, they're very calm.
They are so mellow.
Oh my gosh.
They do
like
not get
because everybody thinks
excited.
Everybody says, why would you do that? It's a way these guys think. Their minds are very different. They look at a bomb and they say, okay, I can take that apart. It's one person against the bomb. And they know what to do and how to do it. And that's what you have now.
Even though those things could go off, you just touched it.
Yeah.
A lot of those bombs also had fuses that were designed specifically to kill explosive ordnance technicians.
Yeah.
The Germans were real good about that, just like booby traps.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, we've seen this before, you clip that wire or you move that sprocket and it's diffused. No, it goes off and you're dead. A couple of the things that attracted me to the story when I didn't have time to write another book, when Elaine called about and I saw her screenplay, her original screenplay. First of all, what would make a young man like Edward Hume, who grew up in a coal mining town in northeastern Pennsylvania, who had a 4F deferment?
Yeah, he did not have to go.
He would not have been drafted. He could have worked in the coal mine and also had a deferment because that was a required industry at the time.
Essential workers.
Instead, he goes and enlists and finds out that what he wants to do is defuse live bombs. A couple of things attracted him. First of all, he was looking for adventure. He was looking for an exciting life, not an ordinary life. He picked the very exciting life for certain. And he wanted to travel. He wanted to see the world. In the book, at least, we have a picture of Mont Saint Michel on his wall in his bedroom because he was always fascinated by that structure and by Europe and
I grew up seeing that poster in our house. So but of course I never asked him because I didn't even think about it. I was a teenager. But then at the funeral was when Charlie Pritchard started telling me all the stories, Hank Anderson in the books, and he started telling me all these stories, and he told me the story about Mont Saint Michel.
Let me jump in here for a second. One thing you must remember, the tail end of the video we just saw, the bombs can last underground or underwater for up to 300 years. They really don't, there's no definitive date on when they'll corrode and come apart, but they're potentially lethal, as you saw.
And you saw the reporters.
Maybe for at least another 250 years.
Yeah.
So that's why you read from time to time of a farmer in Belgium. After all these years, a tractor runs over a bomb and he's no more.
And it's not like we're not still dropping bombs, by the way.
Yeah, we were going to say the Ukrainian bombs. In fact, the gentleman that you saw, not Thomas Vale, the other gentleman that represents the fire police hazmat guys, he's the head of the USBTA, the United States Bomb Technicians Association. He's the one who gave us the first $50,000 to make the documentary film. He just came back from Ukraine because he is teaching them how to create a new training program. And I was talking to him while he was there, and I was like texting back and forth and all this, and I'm like, Sean, what are you doing? Why are you there? It's so dangerous. And he goes, yeah, it is. And that's all he said. Yeah, it is. And he was there training them. And they had to stay in Poland. He couldn't stay in Ukraine. They had to go to Poland, spend the night, and then they came back. And every day. And we met some of those guys last December at the summit. They had this big summit where, and they have these meetings.
International,
like
they had bomb disposal people from
Israel,
from Ukraine, from Germany, from Belgium, from all over the world.
Nobody from Russia. One guy did have a Russian device though, and it was this teeny little device like this big. He says this thing could blow up a city. Yeah. So, and the guy that showed us this, what he does for a living, he's so cool, but it's so scary. He takes 2 other people with him. He goes into Russia. He gets whatever it is. They deactivate it. They get out, and then they study it. And he lives in the 100-acre wood in outside of London. He's this British guy, and this is what he does for a living. And he said to me when we were there in December, I'm getting a little old for this. I said, you're lucky you're still alive.
That's good that you're getting older.
Yeah. So these guys are doing this today, but they're fascinated with this story because for them, this is their blood. This is their tribe and what they started from. And so I've gotten to know them, and I go, I can see now what my father was doing, because it never made any sense to me until I met all of these.
Well,
guys.
another thing that attracted me to the story is we have Edward say this. I don't know if he ever did actually. That one of the reasons he did this is because he had found a way to help win the war without killing people, actually by saving lives.
He was saving.
So he had a noble cause there as well. Now, he did end up having to kill some people along the way.
Yeah.
but that's part of war, I guess. But it also struck me as I read the original screenplay is the most unusual view of the worst war in our history. These guys had it. They weren't on the front lines. They weren't marching through following the tanks into Germany. They were digging holes at manor houses and in gardens and in pastures and along the roadways, defusing these bombs. So they got to know the people that were in the war. They even got to know a lot of the German POWs and people that they would meet in battle. They actually had such a unique view of the war that I thought we had to include that as one of the themes of the book.
What happens in book 2, The Blacksmith of Dachau, we open with it. There's a French woman who my father got to know, and she's in book 1 as well, and her name is Aline Lariche, but her real name is Michelle Perrault Desroux. She was Michelle Perrault. She became a Desroux later and got married. Long story short with that one, she is really in book 2 because in that one, my dad and she and 2 other captains hung out together for 6 weeks. My dad was basically stationed in one area, but they were roaming. So they would go all around and
Normandy.
deal with the bombs during the day. And at night, they all hung out together.
Well, it sounds like a joke. You walk into a bar, do you see 3 officers? One is an EOD captain, one is a military police captain, and one is a chaplain captain. So,
and
so
they all,
the punchline.
they would have these dinners, and they had them for 6 weeks. And then I didn't know any of these stories until she came to me on LinkedIn at the age of 96. She found me and she was looking for my father. And obviously my dad was dead. He had died in 1996. And she started telling me all these stories. And I was blown away. I just got chills and everything. And at 96 years old, she was still so smart and capable. And we became friends for 4 years. And she died in her 100th year. And when she died, we went back. We met her several times. And we went back for her funeral where we scattered her ashes out in the English Channel. And we are very good friends with the rest of the family, the sons, the 3 sons, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren. So we've had a pretty amazing experience because when she reached out to me and started telling me these stories, all we had at that point was a movie script. And I had been talking to a friend of mine who runs and owns Books and Books down in Miami, and I told him the story and everything, and he goes, Elaine, you have to write novels. And that's why we started writing the novels. And Don and I mean, that was what Don was originally doing. He was already writing books. And he came on board to help me with the movie script. And then I said, okay, we're gonna write novels. And I had never written a novel before.
And the plan was to do one novel.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm working on 3 books.
Yeah.
You talk about keeping characters straight and plot lines, they start merging after 2 in the morning.
And then we just got commissioned to write 4 more novels. They like our female characters so much that we're writing 4 new novels on the women and how their lives were uprooted and upended during World War II. And we have some female characters that are really great. And these are novels, but everything's based on actual things that happen.
And we have some real people in there that we can't talk about just yet, but
yes, we have some real people.
that
And
you
then,
may have heard of.
And then in book 4, The Long Homecoming, Chris's father is the prototype for, and Lauren's grandfather, the prototype for this new character that we developed. You meet him at the end of book 3, Good Night from Berlin, at the Brandenburg Gate, and he basically helps Edward and Hank to deal with the Russians, and this guy is a spy, based on his father.
He is absolutely one of my favorite characters in the whole series.
Fun.
Talk about a lovable rascal.
Yeah, Yeah, he's a bon vivant, and he has a lot of things that he just thinks differently. And so you put him together with Edward, who is this, straight and narrow guy, and then you got this other guy who you just don't know what he's going to do.
My daughter has inherited a number of his genes.
We love that. We love it. So we have had a tremendous amount of fun with this. We do feel like there's a lot more to it. And
Let's talk a little bit about, let's talk about the blacksmith of Dachau.
Oh, that's a whole another thing.
There was an actual blacksmith of Dachau.
Yeah.
He was a Polish Jew who fell in love with a girl, followed her to a political rally, and ended up on a list. Yeah. When the Nazis took over Poland, he was one of the first ones they grabbed and took to Dachau. He was
1933.
one of the first prisoners in Dachau.
Yeah.
He was a blacksmith. Now, we make up a lot of this, but it's based on a true, actual, amazing character. They find out that he can fix the commandant's clock, that he's good with his hands. So they make him defuse bombs with no training, no tools, no nothing. A gun to the head.
Yeah.
That was his impetus to go and dig out those bombs and defuse them. How many did you?
246, and the 247th, what happens?
The 247th, he said, I can't touch this bomb. There's something wrong here.
This is all true.
Gun to the head, no, you will defuse it. You will defuse it. He says, no, shoot me, I can't touch this bomb. He gets up and he walks back to the truck. They get one of the other guys that's in one of the other Jewish, what do they call themselves?
Forced laborers. The
Dachau
Dachau 100. Dachau 100.
There were 100
which is a
people
real
that-
thing. You could Google Dachau 100 and you will find this
And
story.
he opens the case, the bomb blows up, kills him, the guards, and some of the other people
He
there.
survived.
But he knew, he just had a feeling. I mean, he went back to his prison
And
cell.
he was, that goes back to the mindset of these guys. They can look at these devices. The guys, the modern day guys, can look at the devices and figure out what to do. And he could figure out, this one you can do. So, and that man did not talk about this until he was in his 90s. I
And
found a
there's-
whole bunch of information about how he had taken his the German woman that he ended up with, her family name when he got out of Dachau. He took her family name because he wanted to blend into society and not be, he didn't want to have a problem. And he never spoke about it until he was in his 90s. And then that's when they put all sorts of plaques up and everything.
Some of
about
this we made up, but
yeah, some of it we did, but he was a real person.
if you go back, this is a
Franz
spoiler,
Buckel.
you still want to read the book.
Yeah.
But if you go back, he was doing a bomb demolition job in Munich. Miserable day, terrible guy with a gun to his head, doing all this stuff. And he looks, and there's some of the people from the town are standing there watching. And there's one girl, a woman, that catches his eye. And they look at each other for a few moments, just a very few moments. He goes back, and they end up blowing up the bomb, and everything's fine.
And the bridge.
Well, other things happen,
Yeah.
but they're pretty dramatic. But he gets back to the truck, and there inside the truck bed where they're going to take him back to the prison, there is a fresh apple and a scarf.
Blue scarf.
And on that scarf was the girl's name that they had looked at each other across the stream there. That's the girl he goes back and marries.
Right. So
But that gave him a reason to live all those years in Dachau.
we find that these stories are stories that people today could very easily be living. And everybody has a story. Everybody has some story to tell. I just happen to have gotten this information that people ask me all the time, why and how did all it happen? It just happened. It was kismet, and then Don came into my life and all of this, and Chris has been the copy editor, and I mean, Lauren and Mike and Katie know my life before, I was a television news person, and it was always fact, 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 and now novels are...
Slow.
But it's so much fun. We have a lot of fun doing
Elaine
it.
doesn't understand why we turned in the manuscript. We don't have the book yet.
And why isn't the movie made? you know?
Yes, where's the
So,
movie?
Like, isn't that what happens, like, immediately? So, anyway, you have questions.
Did your mom know anything about what your dad did?
You know, I would love to know, because she didn't tell us. She had to know what he was up to, and we really play her up. We compressed the time frame in which they got to know each other, in which the 5 daughters were born, but Don and I decided we really wanted to pay tribute to my mom, who is in that picture right there, and she becomes a character. And I don't know if you want to read the excerpt, but there's a moment where they meet, and they
Not
meet,
in Jacksonville, Florida.
not in Jacksonville, Florida, that's for sure. They meet in the middle of a battlefield. This particular mission is true. Did he really meet her there? Well, it's a novel. So my point is, we wanted to find a way to bring my mom into the story so we could pay tribute to her. And she was a nurse. She was a psychiatric nurse. She worked in the Veterans Administration all her life. So he meets her when there was a 50-kilo German bomb that had dropped in the middle of a field hospital, which is a true story. And my dad was basically assigned to take care of this bomb. He gets there, they're wearing all their protective gear, they looked ridiculous, and they're going to take care of this bomb, and my dad walks up there and he's like, okay, everybody evacuate. Nobody moved. Well, they were moving, they were working on, you know, injured soldiers and carrying people and all this. Nobody paid any attention to him. And he's like, hey, I'm telling you, everybody has to leave. And that he ends up having a fight with the chief surgeon, who was the captain, who was also a captain. And it was, no, you know what? You know what you're doing. We know what we're doing. You do your job. We'll do our job. And we just trust that you're going to fix this bomb. And because the surgeon said, if I do what you want me to do, so many more guys will die. So they didn't, and then my dad had to deal with that. So that was one of the confrontations. He was always confronting a lot of, he went up against the system many times. But he was a smart guy, so he knew what he was doing it for a reason, not just to be difficult. He was doing it because he knew this was stupid. He even said at one point, this is stupid. Why are we driving in the middle of the night? Let's pull over and we're going to go to sleep, you know, stuff like that.
She had to have known, because he obviously went through some serious PTSD.
Yeah.
But there's one funny story when they got to, when they got off at the beach and got into their Jeep, and we've all seen the hill, they have to drive up the hill, and they're driving to their first station, and the sun goes down and it's night, and suddenly the driver, Hank, sees trucks coming at him, and they're going to have a collision.
Head
so
on.
He's got to go off the road.
This is true.
And the Jeep rolls, and everybody. He'd forgotten that they were in France. They'd been driving in England on the left side, and he gets to France and he's still on the left side.
Believe it or not, we've got some humor in this book.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny things. I mean, I hate to say
When they
it.
go to the dance hall, that's really.
The dance hall, they have a big, there's a big brawl there, and that was true. And we also have throughout, there's a theme as well throughout. Edward could not swim. And some things happened early on. We do talk about when he was in Pennsylvania when he was younger, and some things happened with that. And when he goes to Mont Saint-Michel, if you know, it's tidal, 50 feet. So he has 12 500-pound American dropped bombs. The Nazis did not drop these bombs. The Americans dropped them. And these bombs were out there like beached whales, and they were ordered to go and detonate, not deactivate, detonate these bombs, because the French were pissed. They were being bombed and they were angry, and yes, the liberation was happening, but you know what? You were killing people, and Saint-Malo and all the places around were just being devastated, so they weren't happy. And then here you've got 12 500-pound bombs next to Mont Saint-Michel, which is a very sacred place. And so he was ordered to detonate the bombs. He goes out there, he brings his men with him because only officers were supposed to deal with these bombs. But because there were 12 and they had to do it within 4.5 to 5 hours, they didn't have a lot of time. So he brings all of them and he tells them what to do, and they reset the charges. They pack it with all this plastique and get the bomb set. Then they trudge back, and there's quicksand. And I don't know if you can see, that is quicksand there, and you could get your legs stuck in there and all that. And and
there was barbed wire.
Oh,
there
and there's
maritime
Rommel's
mines.
asparagus. Yeah, right.
Rommel's asparagus, which were big poles that Rommel would drive in so you couldn't land an airplane or a glider.
A glider, yeah. So it was a mess. And they set it. They're trying to go back as quickly as they can, but it's tough because it's mucky and water's starting to come in. And like I said, my dad did not swim. My dad orders them to throw themselves in the muck face down. Everything blows up except for one bomb. 11 bombs go off. So remember, there was a guy that had died, and my father felt guilty about it. So he sends his men back, and he has to walk back out. When I went out there with Thomas Vail, the Pentagon guy, my first question to him was, did my dad do it the way you would have done it? How would you have done it? He goes, your dad did it exactly right. And my other second question to him was, so when he was walking back out there to reset the charges on that 12th bomb, did he know if that bomb was going to go off? Or what was going through his mind? He says, absolutely no idea what was going to happen, but he knew that there was a chance that he was going to be walking right to a bomb that would have blown up. So he could have been killed. So I'm trying to get a croix de guerre for my father because I think he did something pretty brave. I don't know if I'm going to be able to convince French President Emmanuel Macron.
And
well, I'm actually talking to them. You know, we are on WhatsApp. We talk to, not to him, but to his people. And so I'm trying to get him, posthumous croix de guerre. But that 12th bomb, should I tell you what happened? You know what happens. But if you haven't read the book yet, I want to tell you what happened. But I am here because he obviously survives.
Well, and then 3 more books.
And then there's 3 more books. So he does survive, but he did not know. There had to be a moment.
There was a lightning storm going on at the same time.
It was pretty incredible. So
also an infestation of boils and the blood running in the river.
Does anybody have
an algae in the bay?
Yeah, right. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes. She's read all the books.
Why didn't you use the real names?
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
I asked the same thing, by the way.
Your father's real name, but why did you change like the French lady and all, and the people in his book?
Anybody
Why
who
did
was
you
not
change their
historical,
names?
I'll tell you exactly why. So I had a dear friend who was also my entertainment attorney, and she recommended that don't, because there may be family members that you can't get a hold of, you can't find them. And for instance, for instance, Bill Tate, who is Ace Taft in the books, Bill Tate was 24 when he was killed. He didn't have any kids or anything, but there might be family members who are extended family members, and they may come back at you. And you know what? My attorney said, I'm just telling you, it's not worth it, because then they'll put a kibosh on everything, and you can't go any further. So my dad's name is accurate.
The French lady.
Michelle, she was alive when we made the decision. I asked her, and she was just this, she was very smart and very whatever, but she also was, I don't know if I want my name. Let's come up with another name. And then we came up with Elaine Lariche. It was her name, and she came up with that. She said, I want to be Elaine Lariche. So we did that. I just did not want, that was her alter ego, which I think was her real ego.
That's where we get names for characters.
Yeah, and I just, it's tough. It was tough enough to have my dad's name because I cried for the first several years of writing about him because I could. But now I look at him as a
That
character.
is the
He's a
only
character.
hesitation I had in this writing partnership.
Yeah.
I asked Elaine, you're very close to the story, very obviously. If we decide that we need to make some of these characters do things that you don't like,
I made
can
him
you
write
do
it.
those?
You get to write that part.
I write the bad part.
There was a sex scene, and I said, I'm not doing that.
It's a love scene.
It's a love scene, yes. And you did it beautifully.
I would have had something to say about that.
I was very, very happy with the way you wrote it. Yes.
So I'm glad you used your father's real name.
Oh, yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
It makes everything very clear.
Yeah, it's very, that's why we're doing the documentary too, by the way.
Right.
To all the unvarnished truth.
Now, in the documentary, do you use the real names of
Everything,
the rest of his...
everything.
Oh,
yeah.
of the rest of
The
his-
source material, Zach Steiner is going to be Charlie Pritchard. Everybody's names are going to be real. That's a documentary.
It's a real name.
It's
Yeah, so you
unvarnished
have to
truth.
use the real
Yeah,
names,
yeah.
right.
Let's get on to Doc.
Wait. Katie has a question.
I'll be quick.
No.
It's kind of random, but
I like it.
whenever you post on social media, and I've noticed, like, Colin, your son, looks exactly like your father. It's kind of spooky. So, like, when you're writing and when you're writing at the age that your father was,
Yeah.
and Colin, is that...
It's
what's
freaky.
that like?
It's freaky. In fact, we're going to show you at the end of this, while we're signing, the other trailer, which is not allowed to go out to the world because there's some licensing issues, which is fine, but it's really used to help raise money for the documentary. And at one point, Sandy Kenyon, the gentleman who put this together, said, oh, I've got to use that picture of your dad, and then Colin next to him, because it's freaky. It's freaky. The only difference is that Colin has a cleft chin from him, and does not have it. My dad didn't have a cleft chin.
When Michelle, because we Zoomed a lot,
The French woman.
when Michelle saw Colin when he was at our house, and she starts fixing her hair.
She took her glasses off.
She went back in time.
She
There
did.
was no doubt
It's like
about it.
Benjamin Button, the whole going back in time. So she literally, she was 19 years old again, and he was 26 years old. And Colin was the same age, so when she first met him. And then we went over, and she and he got to meet each other. And watching them talk and be together was fascinating.
We don't really know if anything happened between them. We do know that she had a crush on her dad, as well as the military policeman.
Yes, and this is what's really interesting. So the situation with my father, I was told officially by her that they were just friends. And at one point I said, Michelle, before you met your husband, did you have any other boyfriend? She goes, oh, I had many lovers. But she's French, so I don't know if that was just being French. But then, at the funeral, where we were scattering the ashes, Benoit Desroux, who was a pulmonologist, very, very lovely man, the middle son came up to me we were standing on the rocks, and he hands me these pictures. And he says, I think you should have these. We found them in my mother's things. And it was pictures of my dad. And on the back were notes to her from my father that were, back in 1944, if you were a guy, would you say love? And would you say some of the things that he said, which were very intimate? And I thought, oh, so they both lied to us. I think there may have been some, but see, she was vivacious. She was this, you'll see pictures when you see the second video, and she had this way about her. She was also, there was no doubt that she had a thing for this other guy who you will see a picture of. And he had a 2-year-old son. He was married, he had a 2-year-old son back in Brooklyn, very intelligent guy. And we went back to France with that 2-year-old kid. He was 80. We went back. When we went to visit her the first time, he came with us. And they had become friends. They remained very close. So I don't know what she was up to, but officially we were just friends. But I had many lovers, so who knows what she was really doing.
A quick aside about Michelle. Michelle had, during the war, she had one lung removed.
Yeah, because she had
And it
TB.
turns, and she told us that she had had 4 men who had asked her to marry them. And she told them about the lung, and they all 4 said, no. But they're all dead,
And
said.
she laughed. They're all dead now, and I'm still alive. So she lived to be, and she made it to her 100th year. So that was pretty amazing.
Now,
So
we want to talk about Dachau for a second?
yeah, let's talk about what happened at Dachau.
Dachau really happened with Ed.
Yeah, my dad was there.
He was one of the first to go in. You know, it was all just by chance you were there, so.
They didn't know that it was a concentration camp. They thought it was a youth training camp. And so when they got there, they were just, it was devastating. So that was real. So he, you know, the things that happened that we take him to were real. He was in Berlin, and Good Night from Berlin. He was there for 6 months after the war. That book comes out in September. And then, when did we finish writing that book? Last December.
Right,
That's what it
end
was.
of the
Yeah,
year.
we finished it in December. And then we are writing The Long Homecoming, which Don was the one who named that. Don named Good Night from Berlin, The Blacksmith Dachau. I named the Kaboom Boys. And I think you did The Long Homecoming too.
Of course, we wanted to call the whole series the Kaboom Boys.
We did, but the publisher said, no, we want to call the series A Call to War.
Everything has to do with algorithms and search terms.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And that's how they name these
If
things.
anybody ever wants to know about the business, we can tell you about that too.
Boy, I can.
Now, we were going to do some things like read some excerpts and all that stuff, but maybe you should just read the books. We don't want to take you up. I mean, it's already, you know, getting late for you. And if you want to see that other video, we'll be playing it. And I think we can maybe sign some books and have you guys ask any other questions. If you have any other questions. It's a pretty interesting story. We're not trying to just say, oh, he was better than anybody else. No, there are so many of these stories. And I think that's what you're going to find as time goes on. There are going to be more and more of these stories told. And you're going to hear it from the children or the grandchildren because these guys are all dead. There is nobody left in bomb disposal from World War II. The only person who was still alive that actually worked with them was an Army Corps of Engineer guy by the name of Mel Brooks, the actor, who just turned 100. And he talks about what happened, the bomb guys. He said these guys were the bravest of the brave, you know, and he's still lucid and he still talks about it. We're still trying to get him to talk to us too. It's difficult to get him, but he just did another documentary. But he talks about what the bomb disposal guys did, and he says, I couldn't do that. So Mel Brooks, of all people, who would have thought? So, anybody have any questions? We told you it all, right? We just vomited it all out.
Now you don't have to read the books.
Well, we hope you enjoy the books because it does bring it all together. It connects all the dots. And it's definitely stuff that you never heard of.
The third one's coming out in September?
September, thank you. September 15th is Good Night from Berlin. And if you didn't know anything about, you know, once the war is over, everybody talks about D-Day and then the war's over and everybody's coming back. Well, my dad didn't get to come back. He had to stay there for 6 months after, and there was disease and cleanup, and people were angry, and you had the Germans and the Russians, and everybody was at each other's throat.
I think the most undocumented part of World War II is what happened after Hitler committed suicide and the Russians marched into Berlin. Nobody knows about that. The chaos of suddenly that rigid Nazi regime was gone. No government, nobody doing anything.
Yeah, the German people.
Soldiers marching through your garden.
We really tried to bring the German people forward and how they suffered, because they did suffer. They were just trying to survive. So.
And we go through that. How could a country of such smart people have submitted to something like that?
It was, World War I
We don't
created
answer the
World War
question.
II, and there's a lot of reasons why people did what they did. So.
Especially in book 4, we talk a lot about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, with our spy. Okay, so if anybody's interested, we have some books, and maybe, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.